Hadouken!
Welcome to the Know, I'm Turney.
I'm Haywood.
What's better than brand new video games? Working video games that apparently actually have content.
Oh, yeah, long shot there. It sounds elementary, but apparently some game developers are still trying to figure out that one. The latest of which happens to be Capcom.
After spending several months apologizing for Street Fighter V's completely borked launch and lack of content, Capcom finally admitted that the game could have used a little more time in the oven. And as a result, they're going to change their entire development strategy to make sure their games are more finished.
Hey, there's an idea. Speaking with the company's investors this week, CEO Kenzo Sugimoto said that the company's revenue suffered because they didn't give Street Fighter V the attention it needed before the game launched.
Better games equals more money? Who'd have thought it? Sugimoto said some aspects of Street Fighter V needed more polish, such as the lack of content and server issues at launch.
The CEO went on to add, "It's best to spend a little more time in developing and running a high-quality title that will perform well globally."
Who knew? Those previously mentioned woes led to Street Fighter V severely underperforming for Capcom's financial projections, selling just 1.4 million copies, well shy of the 2 million they'd expected by this time.
As for how they plan to adjust, Sugimoto later said, "We feel it's better to give a little more time to development than before and have made slight adjustments to our portfolio."
We won't be spending too much time beating the dead horse of Street Fighter V's launch issues here, but for those who need a quick TLDR, the game launched with a ton of connectivity issues, with fans having all sorts of problems connecting to matchmaking.
It got so bad that Capcom had to run a special Twitter account just to keep fans updated when they could and couldn't play.
Absolutely. Beyond that, fans had quite a bit to say about the game's lack of single-player content, the bulk of which was going to be added months later following the game's launch.
A couple months back, series producer Yoshinori Ono acknowledged that the studio totally underestimated how important single-player content was for the game's fans.
So as much as studios hate cranking out single-player stuff, players really do seem to miss it. I mean, that's why we bitch about it when it's not there. Although, to be fair, we do see more often than not players don't actually play through all of that single-player content.
Capcom apologizing for its total gaming goof-ups is absolutely nothing new. In fact, a quick Google search of Capcom Apologizes reveals a hilarious number of things they've had to apologize for in the last few years alone.
Let's give you a rundown. In addition to apologizing about Street Fighter V post-launch, they did a bit of pre-launch apologizing last summer when the game's beta had to be taken offline indefinitely when it basically died on the runway.
Last summer, they also apologized for the absurd amount of Street Fighter IV versions, promising that Street Fighter V wouldn't go the same route in its development.
They probably went a little too far in the other direction though, since they barely released that whole one full version of that game.
Yeah, but they won't change the name.
Yeah,
It'll be the same name throughout its run.
All the way.
Some of the other greatest hits of Capcom's mea culpas include that time they released Final Fight with always online DRM without telling gamers. Plus the time that the PC version of Resident Evil Revelations 2 didn't include offline co-op, even though it was included in the game's Steam description.
It ain't easy being Capcom. It ain't easy lying. Like, why you always lying? Okay, so who knows? Maybe giving their games a bit more development time will help boost the company's performance.
Sega is another company who recently said they're going to spend more time on higher quality content following another year of poor sales. And really, it'd be nice if the rest of the industry kind of took note.
The Division. Releasing unfinished games has become something of a norm for video games, which we talk about so much on this channel. I'm gonna vomit if we talk about more unfinished games. A lot of developers, of course, rely on day one patches to help get them across the finish line that they've not really finished.
Or save their asses at the finish line.
Yes.
Yeah. Either way works. We're all familiar with how many of these busted titles we've seen at release. Assassin's Creed Unity, Battlefield 4, Master Chief Collection, and games like The War Z, which Valve had to remove from Steam after so many complaints that the game was basically not done at all.
There are almost too many of these games to count. The problem is developers do it because they feel like they can get away with it, especially when it comes to AAA titles. Not everyone is good guy on Naughty Dog, who delayed Uncharted 4 multiple times to ensure higher quality, and for that, we thank you.
And gamers tend to get mad about these things, but it doesn't stop us from going out and throwing our money at each of them at launch.
Yeah. On the flip side, as much as it does suck to say, there's a strong business case for not significantly delaying a game's launch to iron out all of your issues.
To be clear, we're not excusing releasing a broken game. We're just saying that it kind of makes some shitty business sense.
Because people still throw money. If you throw money at a broken game, you're part of the problem.
Well, you don't know until you buy it.
I know! We're all part of the problem. If you're a game developer aiming for a holiday release, for example, you probably lose a lot of money delaying your game to beginning of the following year than you would releasing a game that's just kind of shitty and requires some updating it.
Yeah, there's also the timeliness of a game to consider as well. Imagine if the upcoming Battlefield 1 hit a delay, for example, and they moved past their release date after Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. That'd be a disastrous hit they might not recover from.
Things also get a little tricky from a budgeting perspective. Publishers have clear budgetary guidelines for game development, which includes the amount of time that certain resources are allocated to the project.
Delaying a game means spending beyond the game's budget, which also means it needs to sell even more to make up for it. But if you've got a game you know can hit a certain sales number, you know that money's not coming back.
And overspending and under-delivering leads to all kinds of nasty stuff like people losing their jobs, other budget cuts, things that are really bad for everyone across the board.
So at a certain point, publishers have to pick their poison. Release something we know isn't finished and take a hit with our customers, or release something that costs too much money and doesn't perform as well and take a hit with the investors.
Neither one. Good option. It's a devil's threesome there. And sometimes they pick wrong, which seems to have been the case with Capcom here. They thought it was more important that their business get the competitive component out ahead of Capcom Pro Tour with a single-player content campaign delivered later. And, people just didn't agree with them.
Which is interesting because Capcom did give people plenty of warning about how the game's content would hold up.
Again, we're not arguing for releasing unfinished games. Just want to be clear about that. We're just illustrating the realities of why this thing kind of happens.
So until we stop buying games that developers knowingly released with game-breaking issues, looking at you, Bethesda, who said they did as much with Skyrim, this is the side that they're going to err on for quite some time. Well, once it stops making business sense, they'll quit doing it.
And hey, it can work, because that's exactly what's happening here with Street Fighter V. The power is yours, gamers.
Well, sort of.
Yeah.
Really, the power is money's, gamers.
The power is money's.
Yeah.
Money-holding gamers.
So what do you guys think of Capcom's decision to spend longer working on games? Let us know in the comments.
For more discussion about half-assed game development, like this video and subscribe to the Know. I can't stop doing this because it's like I just want to fly away.
Yeah. Now I have to go back and play some more Hitman on live stream.
Oh, you should strangle someone with my sweet kimono.
We're up to like 2 levels. Any day now, there'll be more. CEO Kinzo Sugimoto. Yeah?
What?
Sugimoto, yeah.
Yeah,
Kinzo Sugimoto. Speaking with the company's investors this week, CEO Kinzo. Speaking with
You got it the first time.
Speaking with the company.